Welcome to the Not Superheroes Just Dads podcast. No, we can't fly. No, we can't shoot lasers or pick up giant buildings. But what we can do is help set the foundations for our families, be presents for our kids, and combat generational cycles. On this podcast, we dive into everything dad related, from the struggles we deal with as fathers to what our favorite thing, the barbecue, is. Hello, I'm Sean Laurie. Hope you guys are doing great today. Man, out here it's been a little chilly. Winter's almost over though, so that's the good part. But we've been having some crazy weather out here. But make sure you guys, like always, right before we dive into it, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, tell a friend, share. I appreciate the support, of course, like always. Now, as we get ready to dive into this, y'all, I would actually also encourage too, if what I'm about to talk about, if anyone disagrees, anyone would like to come on, right? Man, fathers, you're always welcome to hop on, be a guest. Just reach out to me, because today I want to speak on accountability and childhood trauma, right? The childhood trauma that we all deal with. I say all because, in my opinion, we all have some type of childhood trauma, right? We all do, in my opinion. That's just how I feel on it. You could disagree if need be, but I'm gonna dive into that right now. But what does it mean, to take responsibilities for our actions, our emotions, our healing? How does our accountability impact our children? Right? That's something that for me I really thought about is, are we being accountable of certain things we've dealt with? Either some of it wasn't our fault, some of it was our fault, and then were we actually be able to be accountable or hold ourselves to a certain standard to get the healing we need from those things, right? Because I look at it like, no matter who you are, right? No matter how great your parents were, there's something that you're dealing with. There's something you're trying to overcome. And that goes for us as parents. Doesn't matter if you're trying to be the perfect parent, which I always say, right, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. But no matter, you give your kids the every gift they want, right? You make sure you support them. You make sure you do everything you can. That doesn't mean that they're still not dealing with stuff. And now the thing is, when it comes to childhood trauma, that doesn't necessarily mean it's because of the parents. That doesn't mean you're the cause of the trauma, right? I think a lot of times we view that. When we hear childhood trauma, we automatically think, oh man, what did the parent do, right? Oh man, the parent must have did this, No, it could be as simple as, your uncle who you looked up to, right? Your uncle who you looked up to, you saw get harassed by the police, right? All the time. Now, it doesn't matter what maybe your uncle was doing stuff he wasn't supposed to be doing, whatever, but that's what you saw as a kid. You constantly saw that in and out of jail, things like that, right? And so that did something to you. That made you feel like every cop is against you, right? You felt like, oh man, at the end of the day, they're just picking on me. That might not be the case, but that's just how you feel because of what you experience, right? Or, you had, you might have got rejected from girls that you liked, right? And yeah, you was only 10 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, but these girls kept rejecting you or they kept using you. And that had nothing to do with your parents, but those are just the type of girls you were dating or whatever the case was. And so now all of a sudden you have a certain view when it comes to certain women, or you have a view of this particular race. Right? Oh man, you know what? All black women are like this. All white women are like this. All Asian women are. You have this type of stigma because of what you dealt with as a kid. And I think we don't really look at those things. We don't really think about it, right? Or, shoot, I'm busy, right? I'm busy doing multiple things. Those that know me know I have like 1,000 different hats, right? But I'm working, I'm making sure I'm providing for my child. But with me having 4 kids, I have to make sure I'm conscious that one of my child doesn't feel neglected, right? My son does basketball, as you guys know. So I'm with him probably the most out of all my kids, right? But how does that make my oldest feel, right? How does that make my youngest feel? My youngest son or my youngest daughter, how does that make them feel? Where it's like, okay, yeah, dad's providing, dad's, he's getting us different gifts, food's on the table, all right, but you know what? He's always going outside with uh, my brother, but he don't go outside with me, right? And that's something that I recently just started thinking about. Like, man, you know what? I'm gonna start because they all want my attention, of course, but I'm gonna start trying to do better as far as not even, hey, you know what? I'm gonna get the girls, I'm gonna get the boys. No, I'm gonna have each individual child and spend time with them, right? Spend time with them and make sure that they know, hey, you have all of my attention, you have all of me in this moment, right? And just do better with those things because that's something that I know that my kids need, right? And that's something that I'm pretty sure many of us as fathers can relate to. Is we get so busy at times, or we're tired, right? I've had a couple guests talk about that, right? When they're tired from work, right? And you know what? Their kid wants their attention, but at that moment they're just like, hey, I want to rest. Hey, you know what? Let dad chill out for a little bit. But again, our child is going to take it differently, right? There's certain things that I'm sure maybe you address something to your friends, your family members, loved ones, whatever that happened when you were younger, and you brought it up to them, and they view it completely different. They're like, wait, what do you mean? No, you're saying that I emotionally manipulated you. No, how? How did I do that? Right? And it's like, oh, well, because you know what, mom or dad or whatever, I felt like that because you would make me feel guilty when you wanted me to do stuff, right? Um, I just thought about this right now too. Is there's times moms do this, but don't get me wrong. I think some dads probably do this as well, right? Where they are dealing with their own trauma, whatever it is. Might not even be childhood trauma. Might be, you know, they broke up with their spouse, or they it didn't work out like they wanted to, but they have a child. So what do? They try to create the perfect son. They try to create the perfect daughter. Oh, you they start holding. It might have happened to you, right? Or someone you know, or maybe you're guilty of doing this, right? But um, a lot of times it happens, especially in the single household, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna hold you to this certain standard. You need to be this type of man, and it's like, wait, hold on, why do I need? All men are liars, so you need to not lie. You're a liar. And you don't realize you're devaluing a man, right? Like, ladies, not to pick on y'all, right? There's some ladies out there it's almost like you would think they're dating their child, right? Because it's almost like, hey, I screwed up with your dad, so I'm gonna make sure you're better than your dad. I'm gonna make sure I constantly compare you to what your dad didn't do. I'm gonna make matter of fact, I have to know everything you're doing. I have to know every single move because at the end of the day, I didn't know what your dad was doing at the time. So I want to make sure I'm involved in every single thing, right? And they could be doing that out of love, or they are doing that out of love. It's not they can't. They are. They're doing it out of love because they're looking at it like, hey, I just want to make sure help you be the best man you can be, right? And so they're more so trying to help their child based off of their experience, and it's really not helping, right? It's really not helping at all. But they think it is, but it's not. So that's something where how, like I said, could happen to you, or something you saw, or shoot, could be the other way around too. Hey, your mom was this way, so I got to make sure you never, like, as my daughter, you can never act like this. You need to carry yourself like this. You need to have this. You need to have that. And all of a sudden, you're putting all these expectations, and you're putting all this pressure on your child, and it's almost like you're punishing them, or you're trying to correct whatever you did wrong, right? You're trying to fix whatever wasn't fixed with them. And so that's something that can linger. That's something that can linger for us as kids, and then as we go into being parents, right? When we be parents now, we're carrying that with us. And so there's, like I said, there's so many different things that I feel like can be addressed from different experiences that we have as a child. Because, like I said, you can have the best parents in the world. Oh man, you know what? They gave me everything. No, I don't even know what it's like to now know what we're gonna eat, for dinner. Like I drove in the. We always had the nicest cars. I always had my own room. I always had this. Okay, that's great. But then you go in the real world and you don't know how it is to really work hard. Let's just say, for example, right? You don't know how to work hard because you were used to your parents constantly doing every single thing for you. Now you got to try to figure that out, right? And I don't even necessarily call that a trauma, but that is something now, that's a hurdle then. We'll call it like that. That's not even a childhood trauma, that's just a childhood hurdle that you got to deal with, right? Or you start really just thinking that you're God's gift to everything, right? Because it's like, man, you know what? Everything I want, everything I've seen, it always goes my way. Since I was 4 years old, I always was able to get this, able to get that. And you don't really know how it is to work hard in certain things. You don't know how to handle adversity because your parents shield you from that, right? And again, as parents, we're trying to do our best. I don't think any parent should ever apologize for trying to give their kids the best life possible. Should not apologize at all for that. But just understand, as parents, there is going to be some type of hurdle, trauma, dilemma that your child's going to deal with. And it might not even be anything you did. It could be something they experienced or something you said and they took it another way. That's the thing about communication, right? Communication, I could say one thing and you take it a different way than the person next to you that heard it. Or I can text you something, right? I can text you something and you read it and you take that text message a whole different way, right? I could just text you, how you doing? And you could look at it like, I'm saying like, man, how you doing? Like, what's up? Like, what's the problem? Right? And it could be something that you're dealing with and you're just, like, for whatever reason, you're translating that with the text message and you're taking it a whole nother way, right? And so that's something that I think we have to be mindful of. That's something I think we have to understand, right? I remember for me, growing up, having low self-esteem, right? And I think it's because of, obviously, like, I'm fine with it now. I'm thankful for it now. But at the time, I always been, like y'all know, I always been a slim guy, right? So, but I would hear different things from school, sometimes from family members, right? And they didn't mean nothing by it, right? They don't mean no harm when they're, hey, okay, you need to eat more, right? I would hear that all the time, like, a family member, you need to eat more. It's like, well, I'm always eating. Like, I just have a fast metabolism. There's nothing I can do about that, right? But me hearing that, right, feeling like, dang, something is wrong with me because I'm eating, but yet for whatever reason the weight's not staying on me, right? Or someone that is having a hard time losing weight. Dang, you need to start running more, or you need to be on a diet, right? And they're like, well, hold on, I'm only 12 years old and I'm only eating what you give me, right? But now you're criticizing me because of that, right? And then we take that as adults and now we're feeling some type of way. Now, we're 45 years old or something like that. And yeah, we might play it off, especially as guys, right? We're going to play it off like, man, we Rico Suave, we got everything together. But then when we look in the mirror, we still see that fat 12-year-old kid, right? And we could be in shape, but we still, because the things that our loved ones or people at school or our best friends or whatever said to us growing up. And so we never actually get over that. We never even acknowledge, especially as guys, we're not going to acknowledge a lot of times the childhood trauma, right? But a lot of times those childhood traumas shapes us, right? Shapes us to be who we are, shapes us to be what type of parent we're going to be. So the question is, like, how do we acknowledge that without letting it define us, right? How do we acknowledge that, you know what, some of the things that I did deal with has shaped me and has made me think this way? And I would say the way we make sure that doesn't define us is figure out, okay, is this acceptable? Okay, is this okay that I think this way? Is it okay that I feel this way? What do I need to do now to correct this, to get better with this, right? And not just for me, but so I can make sure if my kids deal with this, they know how to go, they know how to work through it, and they know it doesn't define them, right? You could have an athlete. You know, many of us as fathers, right? We want our kids to be great athletes. Oh man, you know, they're great at baseball, they're great at football, basketball, all these different things. But we don't realize what we're doing to our child when now they're just being defined by that. So, well, how is that a trauma? I don't understand. Because now when the sport stops, they're no longer catching footballs, throwing a baseball, whatever the case is, kicking a soccer ball. They don't know what to do with their life. They don't know how to cope with it, right? I don't think we ever think about that. Think about that for a second. You have your child since the age of, let's say, 5 years old doing football, right? And then football is no longer part of their life at the age of 23. How does that affect your child? I don't think we think about those things. And for so long, it was, let's say, you know, right, especially if your child's real talented, right? Your homie's going to say, shoot, family members might say, hey, you don't get us out. Hey, you the one. Hey, bro, you next up. Hey, you this, you that. But an injury happens, or grades slip, or just life in general happens where it doesn't fall like you thought it would. How does a child work through that? And as a parent, how do we help them through that, right? Or shoot, you might be that parent now that dealt with that. Man, I was an amazing baseball player. Once baseball stopped, you know, I was on my own. I didn't have nobody. How do you deal with that? And that's something that I don't think we think about, right? And so, you know, this is something that I just want to make sure, you know, we don't carry certain things from our past. We need to learn from it, but don't carry it, right? And even if we, like I say, even if we do everything right as a parent, the struggles will always come out, right? Will always reflect in certain aspect because of us not doing the work. So again, you was that star baseball player, right? You have kids, and now your kid doesn't do whatever sport or whatever activity the way, you know, you think they should. All of a sudden, you're not vibing with them as much. You know, just for example, right? You're not vibing with them like you should because it's like, oh shit, I remember when I wasn't catching a football, or when I wasn't kicking a soccer ball anymore, or whatever the case is. Like, man, a lot of people kind of ducked off. They let me be after that, right? And so just understanding those things, man, I feel like it is so important, because it's something that we don't talk about. We hear it all the time, childhood trauma, and I've heard it too. Man, I don't have no childhood trauma, man. My parents were great. My parents was perfect. Great, that's amazing. But did anything linger from school? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. Did anything linger from our neighbor, from our uncle, from our aunt, from our grandparents? Right? It's like, man, okay, you know what? I didn't think about it like that because, yeah, my grandpa, you know, would act this way, right? I had the best grandpa in the world. He would teach me how to fix cars. He would teach me how to do this. He would teach me. But let's say, for example, in this scenario with the grandpa, right? He would also cuss you out anytime you messed up, right? And you looked up to him, so you figured like, oh, shoot, okay, that's how I should operate. Anytime someone messes up, I should cuss them out because you should be doing it this way because that's how I showed you to do it. You don't do it that way, I'm cussing you out. I don't care how you feeling, right? So it's so many different layers, I guess, when it comes to trauma, when it comes to certain hurdles that we deal with. You know, maybe it's difficult for you to stand up for yourself, right? And I'll use, for example, my girls. My girls are they're very outspoken now. But I know at one point, like, they didn't want to ruffle no feathers and things like that. But I told them, respectfully, right, depending on who you're talking to, find your voice, right? Don't let people take advantage of you, because that's how you do get bullied, right? That's how you do go operating in life, right? In a way where you can get taken advantage of. Oh man, my manager shorted me on my check, but it's okay. I don't want to speak for myself. I'll just let be. He'll probably give me the next time, right? Or shoot, your boss might ask you, hey, I need you to come in right now. Well, I have actually, I can't. Remember, I start in a couple hours. I can't because I'm taking my child to the dentist. Or no, I need you to go. Like, you need to come right now. Oh, okay. I'm gonna just drop everything and do that, right? Because you're afraid to say, hey, no, I actually have this responsibility. My shift starts in 2 hours. I'm gonna be there on time, but I have to take care of this right now. Or you don't even have to explain it, right? Honestly, right in that scenario, hey, I can't right now. I have something I gotta take care of, but I will be at work at my regular time, right? Or whatever the case is. And so, I think another one, real quick, too, another one that comes to mind is jealousy, right? And that can be something too. It's like, wait, jealousy? What do you mean, right? Because you can be jealous in someone's accomplishments and carry that with you. So when you see other people, you automatically hating. You automatically, oh man, wait, they got a raise. Oh shoot, they got their degree. Oh, they can start their new business. And you, for whatever reason, hating. But the reason why you're hating, it has nothing to even. You're not even trying to be quote unquote a hater, as they say. It's because growing up, you was constantly being compared to your sibling, right? And you took that with you. You didn't even know that. And you had that resentment, right? You had some type of resentment. It wasn't like a healthy competition. It was like, oh yeah, see, that's why that's dad's favorite. That's mom's favorite, right? Or you start taking that jealousy with you because you saw, okay, growing up, that's how it was for my parents, right? They loved me to death, but I used to see them arguing all the time. I saw them being jealous, and you know what? It kind of worked for them, so I think I should do the same, right? Like I said, it's just little small stuff that we don't even think about. It could be the most simplest things at times that we carry with us and don't know it. When I moved to Texas, right, as you guys know, been a few years now, I didn't really think about, I mean, I did think about it, but I didn't think about the impact as much when it came to my oldest, right? So, from her perspective, she's sophomore going into her junior year, and we're moving to a whole nother state, right? I told her, hey, no, you could stay in Cali, like with family and stuff like that, and come to visit, because I knew it'd be a big adjustment. But she let me know, like, why would I want to leave you guys, right? Like, no, I'm gonna go wherever you guys are. And even though she did, I'm so thankful for that. I didn't think about how much of an impact that was for her, right? How big of an adjustment that was for her. Like, I knew, but like it wasn't until recently where I really knew, like, oh yeah, like that's a huge change, right? And so that's something that she can carry with her, right? Where let's say all of a sudden she's just not good with change, or she just feels like, oh man, any there's a moment where again, this isn't the case, but she could have viewed it as, my dad's willing to leave me wherever. And that wasn't my intentions. My intentions was more so, no, you can stay here in Cali. You have family out here, I understand. Or I mean, we have family out here, I understand. Can visit, finish your next 2 years, and then you can come to Texas. But in her mind, she could have took it as, wait, my dad's willing to let me go, right? And that wasn't where my heart was at. My heart was really just, hey, no, I want you to be happy. I know it's a big adjustment, and I don't want you not to be here. But, like, I do trust, grandma. I do trust aunts, uncles, right, to make sure you're good, so you can finish the school year. But I'm not thinking about how that can impact her, how that affects her. So I share that to just say, like, we all have different things, and all we can do is do the work as far as understanding what some of our traumas are, what some of the things we are overcoming or have overcome, right? What does that look like? And then really communicate with our kids too, right? Communicate with them, being the best father we can be. We're not always the best communicators, of course, but it's so important for us, especially as fathers, because they see it. Our sons, they're seeing, man, my dad's able to communicate and he's able to express himself, but do it under control. I can do the same, right? Or shoot, excuse me, I know I'm choking, but shoot, like, you know what? I see how my dad communicates with my mom, and he does it respectfully, but he also gets his point across. Man, so I don't have to be yelling and cussing people out. I can get my point across. Okay, cool, right? So that's why it's so important for us to be able to really communicate and be able to hold ourselves accountable, though, right? We have to hold ourselves accountable with this. Like, we can't just downplay it, right? And just be like, oh, it is what it is. I'm fine. Uh, and have to understand, okay, what part did we play on it, right? Okay, yeah, you know what? Your mom went through whatever she went through, and she did certain things when you was a kid that has impacted you, right? Or shoot, you know, you're the only child, right? Or you're I don't know, you're a mama's boy, whatever the case is, and you're super close, which is great. And you felt like you had to take care of your mom because at the end of the day, your dad wasn't around. Let's say, for example, man, that's amazing. But now you have a family, and now when it's time to set guidelines, it's hard to set it because your mom's not understanding it. Matter of fact, your mom's still looking at you like, man, you're a kid. What do you mean I'm a kid? I'm 44 years old. You're like, no, you're a kid in my eyes because at the end of the day, whatever I say, you always have done, and I want you to do it this way. Well, my wife, it doesn't matter about your wife. I want you to do it this way, right? So, yes, that is something we have to work through, but now you have to be accountable because you have a whole family you got to take care of. So now it's up to you to stand up and be like, hey, I love you, Mom, right? Or shoot, I love you, Dad, but this is the way I want to do things. This is the way I'm going to do things in my household. This is how I'm going to do it, right? And being able to work through that because it can be difficult too. A lot of us growing up, right, we will respect and love our parents, but we also operate in fear, right? Because our parents didn't play back in the day, right? They go and let you know what it is, which I did love because at the end of the day, I do feel like our generation's a little bit tougher, but it's a balance, right? It would be great if we could have certain conversations at times, right? And it wouldn't be where they're deflecting or they're trying to not be accountable themselves or they're trying to say, hey, well, it's only because this and this and this. It's like, okay, I understand those situations happen, but this is what it is right now, right? Oh, you know what? Yeah, your wife, she didn't, I don't know, she didn't say happy birthday to me. Yes, she did. You just didn't acknowledge it. Well, it's because, I was busy that day, right? Or whatever the case is, right? So it's like, it's always going to be something. It's always going to be difficult for us to not only, again, for us to really do the work for us as far as what we dealt with, but also to have those conversations because sometimes to deal with that childhood trauma, you got to have those tough conversations. You got to talk to that uncle, that mom, the dad, the grandparents, if your grandparents still around, right? Because at the end of the day, that will help with the healing process, let's be honest. Because you're carrying this with you and you're operating in this manner and you don't know why. Because a lot of times we're just trying to stay surface level. We're not trying to really figure out why. Why are we thinking like this? So I just wanted to share that with you guys because it's something that I feel like as men, people in general, of course, but we're doing much better. Like I'm not trying to say we're not, but the trauma and the different things we deal with can really be heavy. If you lost your mom, if you lost your dad, right? What does that do to you, right? What does that do to you? Like, oh well, yeah, I lost my mom at 6 years old. I lost my dad at 8 years old, and oh yeah, it is what it is. Well, okay, it is what it is now because you're older. But what did that do to you growing up? And how does that affect you now? Right? Man, I lost my best friend. My best friend got killed in high school. Okay, what did that do to you? Like, did you really heal from that? Did you really figure out how did that make you feel? Those are traumas that, you know, you deal with it, and it's one of those things you just ignore, especially as guys. We just ignoring it like, man, I'm just living. I had to push through. I get that, but did you really figure out? Did you really do the work? I should say, to heal from it, to see what it did to your psyche, to see what it did to your spirit, right? Like, how did that land for you? Oh man, my dad left when I was a kid. My mom left when I was a kid. Dang, okay, so you didn't grow up with a mom like that, so you didn't have no one really nurturing around. Then you didn't grow up with your dad like that, so you didn't really have no one to teach you to how to be a strong man. Oh, you had your uncles, but your uncles was doing their things in the streets, so that's how you view what a man is, right? So it's just like I said, so many different layers, so many different aspects to this trauma thing that we deal with. And again, it doesn't even have to necessarily do with our parents. It just be with our experience. Shoot, your teacher when you was in school, all your teachers would say you're dumb or whatever the case is. So yeah, and you didn't even share that with your parents, let's say for example, right? And so you just took that with you, right? You took that with you, so you're always operating with, oh, I have something to prove. But then when something goes wrong, you're so quick to talk bad about yourself. Man, I'm dumb. Damn, I'm stupid. Damn, this. Damn, I'm that. Right? So I say all that, man, to just really encourage y'all to really do the work, for if not for you, at least for your kids, right? Your kids need it. And if it's one of those things where you feel like, dang, it's kind of too late, Sean, like I'm hearing this is great, but my kid's older now, like it's not too late, right? Have those conversations, have those tough conversations with your child. It's not too late to can you rewrite a wrong? No, like it happened, but how can you move forward from it? How can you acknowledge it? Like, dang, okay, you know what, Dad? After all this time, like I never thought you would even think about it from my perspective. Dang, okay, like and now you're helping them. Like, hey, okay, yes, I'm acknowledging this is the part I played in it, but now what are you going to do to fix this? Right? You keep chasing after relationship after relationship because you saw what I did, right? Or you keep going from moving from city to city because of what I did, right? How can we correct that? How can we fix this? So yeah, man, that's why I always say we set the standards, right? With everything. Now it's a lot. It's a heavy crown we gotta wear, but it's also necessary for us to get the best version of ourselves, and for our kids to see the best version of us, and for us to hopefully push them to be the best version of themselves as well. So, with that being said, appreciate you guys like always. Like always, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and you don't have to be perfect, but you always have to be present. I'll see you guys on the next one.